go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week for Let's Go There. And this week is yet again another very juicy topic about, come on, let's get real, sex sells. So it is about sex, and more sex. So get used to it. We'll be talking a lot about sex today and how we are not doing it enough. So today, my guest is Alyson Williams. She is an amazing coach with a lot of tools and trainings behind her. So instead of me trying to mess it up and explain to you what's going on, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, always do. I'm going to go and set this up and we go live on Facebook. And in the meantime, Alyson will tell you what she does. And then I'll be back to tell you what this interview is all about. Okay, over to you, Alyson.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. And firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk with you and all your members as well. I just love just hanging out with you. So this is super exciting. So who am I? Well, I am a life coach. I used to be a teacher and then I became a public servant for 25 years, retired a couple of years ago, and then am now able to give my full-time commitment and attention to my coaching business. I have done NLP. I'm an NLP master coach. I've done extended disc behavioral analysis, profiling. It's kind of like personality profiling, but much better, much more flexible and versatile. I'm a hypnotherapist and I'm a transformation coach. So I take people from where they are to where they want to be. And specifically, I love to focus on relationships because to me, relationships as human beings are really what it's all about. And the most important relationship is a relationship you have with yourself. So self-love, especially for women, is so, so important. And once you've got that, and it's a journey, nothing is static. You know, as long as you're living, you're learning and you're growing and you'll make mistakes. And it's how you move on from those mistakes. And trust me, at my age, I've made a lot of mistakes. So I've learned lots of lessons and I'd love to share those with you.
That's right. That's right. And that's why Alyson is here. Did you hear the long accolades that she's got? Yeah, very, very experienced, both in life and as well as in her learnings. So thank you for watching us live on Facebook. So if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section and then we'll get to you. If we miss it, Alyson will come back and she'll put the answers in there for you. At the end of this video, she will also leave her contact details so that you can find her about, Now, first and foremost, what is the topic today? The topic today is about sex, like I already said. That's why you're here. You're intrigued. I've hooked you in. You're like, ooh, sex. Yeah, this is not, it's not clickbait, by the way. We are really going to talk about sex. Okay, a lot of it. So this is what's going to happen. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will find timestamps in the comments. And if you like to skip forward to a particularly juicy section, please do that. If not, watch the whole thing because this is a fun topic and it's a topic that I wish someone has told me and made me do it because it would have saved me many years of grief in my marriage, in my own marriage of like now it's like 18 years. So this is how this is going to go. We're going to go into why men need sex and why women don't after we get married, and how number two is how often should we be doing it really in a marriage? I mean, we all get tired, we don't feel like it, so but there is, all right. And Alyson wants me to tell you that she's not a tantric expert. So,
Yet,
because she loves learning, she loves studying, so you never know what's going to be next. So given that she has lived past like one marriage and now in relationships, so she knows what she's talking about. So let's start with, in a marriage, why do men need it and why we don't?
Well, I'd first like to say, Karen, you said that if you had known all this, earlier, you would have made life easier in your marriage. Well, for me, it would have saved my marriage. And so now that's what I really do. I talk to people, especially young women, and I say, you've got to make time for sex. Even if you don't feel like it, you have to make time for sex.
Yeah.
And right now, years ago, I read John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I knew all that in the early part of my marriage. But I also thought, you know what? I mean, okay, I'm 61 now. So this was in the 80s when I got married. I got married a bit later in life. So I'd done, been there, done that. So my marriage and having children was really important to me. And by the time my children came along, which is 7 years into my marriage, which is another story altogether, I was kind of, very much, I was sort of 34 with my first child. And so I was very much a confident sort of young woman. I knew what I wanted. I was very upfront about things. I was quite forthright, so talking about what I wanted was kind of quite normal. And to me, it was like, if I don't tell you what I want, how will you know? I can't expect you to read my mind. And so I used to be quite, forthright is probably the best word in terms of where I'm coming from, what I'm
You still
feeling.
are.
Well, absolutely, because I really value that, and I like that from people I know too. Tell me what you want, because I'm not a mind reader. And if you're important enough to me for us to have a relationship, I want to know, because I
That's
do
right.
want to be, reciprocal in our relationship.
That's right.
But getting back to the John Gray and the Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus stuff, after reading that, I thought, well, you know what? This is 1980 or 1990s, probably by that point. If I don't feel like sex, I don't have to. It's none of that, lie back and think of England kind of stuff, even if you are in Australia. So I thought, I don't really need to do anything that I'm not feeling the need to do.
Me too. Actually, that was me. And because when you don't do it, you just don't. And then you just get out the habit of doing it. After, trust me, after you have a baby, it's all messed up, and you're like, oh no, you know what? No, don't feel like it. And the whole time you're just occupied with the child.
Exactly. Yes, and I must admit the reason I'm referring to John Gray is because in his book he actually said that men need to have sex to feel close and women need to feel close to have sex. So I kind of knew that, but still that was a theory. But for me, it was still this internal feeling of, hang on, what about me? I have these needs. Why should my needs be less than his needs?
That's right.
But as you said, Karen, so that then became the kind of gap in our relationship, because I felt, well, I don't want to have sex because maybe I'm miffed about something. So unless I'm feeling close to you, I don't want to sort of get
Exactly.
that close to you.
That's right.
So we didn't have sex for a long time, and in fact, probably before there's too much information, I know, but there were years that we didn't have sex, and I think that was the breakdown of my marriage, just really, which is why now I'm so passionate to tell young women, please make time for sex. When my son was young, I did a parent effectiveness training program, and there were couples, but mainly women. And there was one woman who was there by herself. Her husband was working, and she was saying that, when he wanted to have sex, she'd say to him, okay, so if you want to have sex tonight or any night you want to have sex, you've got to make sure that you're the one getting up to the baby, because I'm not going to be, I can't sort of put my mind to sort of relaxing and having an orgasm if I know later on I'm going to have to get up. And it was awesome that she talked about the big O, right? Because who does that?
I know.
Yeah.
So it is. Sorry, you go.
No, you continue.
Yeah, because this is so vital. Although my training, I'm a psychologist, and so I've studied all about this. I know the needs, and I know it's necessary, but yet it just doesn't translate.
No.
And I know for a fact that the longer you stay away from doing it, it becomes awkward. And there are days when I thought, I'll have a couple of drinks to just relax and get in the mood. Then I'll get myself drunk because you are nervous, and then I'm out. So that doesn't work.
No.
How do you recommend? I know that you're not a sex expert, but you have experience and you're open enough to want to talk about this. So share with us, how do we even start?
Well, I think it depends on, before you get into that cycle of I don't feel like it and therefore you don't have sex and then it's been a long time. So nip that in the bud is what I would say.
Yep.
And what I found now with my current partner, being that I've now learned from my marriage, is that now I know I might not feel like it when we start, or before we start, but I know once we get started, I will feel like it. And so to me, that's really the key. But if you're not there yet, then you need to be able to know that when you do get started, you will enjoy it. And if you're not there yet, as I said, what you need to do is go back and just build up the intimacy, because as I said, we need to sort of feel close. We need to feel, connected emotionally before we can give our bodies to men, whereas men need to sort of do the whole body thing before they can feel close emotionally.
That's
So
right.
do what you need as a woman, and so maybe just snuggle on the couch, because intimacy is not sex alone.
That's right.
Intimacy is just being close to each other, feeling each other's kind of the emotional connection, right? So you can do that, maybe have like a date night, which is now all the thing, which is like 20, 30 years ago, who knew about date night?
Yep.
So have date nights, and have, even when you're not on a date night, just have your normal, after the kids have gone to bed, if you've got kids, sit down and just sort of snuggle together on the couch.
Yeah.
Maybe have a ritual whereby when he comes home, you sit down and he talks about his day, and maybe you have some time with the kids first or whatever, but put some routines and rituals in place that give you family time with the kids, both of you, so the kids have both parents, and then give you couple time. So after the kids have gone to bed, the two of you just have me time or
Yeah.
us time.
Yeah. So for the viewers watching, I want you to know that although I did sell you sex and we did talk about sex, now relationship far more extends much further than that. Marriage just takes work. It
Yeah.
really does. Because once the infatuation falls away, then you need to find out why you're with this person though. The whole entire excitement of, oh my God, it's so exciting to be with this person, that will go.
Definitely.
So you need to find some, fun in the relationship. You need to find the fun. You can't keep doing the same thing day in, day out. You cannot.
Absolutely agree. And you can make fun. You can have like little kind of silly things become fun. The kind of things you used to do when you first met, right? Whereby when you first meet, you're so in love with each other that you will do silly things. You're not worried about, do I look silly, or, is my hair right, or what's my makeup? Or you might be at the start, but when you sort of get into the throes of things, you're not worried about whether your hair or your makeup or what have you. You get more into the fun time together. And there's that old kind of saying about the whole jelly bean jar, right? We say that, if you have sex before, every time you have sex before you get married, you put a jelly bean in the jar. And funnily enough, getting mixed up. And then after you get married, every time you have sex, you take a jelly bean out of the jar. And what happens is the jelly bean jar is never empty, because you have much more sex before marriage than after. So you need to make sure that you're trying to empty your jelly bean jar if you have one of those. And if you don't, I mean figuratively. So look at the ways that are going to bring you and your partner closer together so you can enjoy each other. And it's not just about enjoying each other's bodies, because we said with women, we really need to enjoy the intimacy, the closeness.
That's right. That's
before the body comes into it. So look at what makes you happy and what makes him happy. I was actually talking to one of my clients the other day, and she said they had a family day where they went bowling together. So she and her husband and the kids went bowling, and they had so much fun.
Yeah.
So just little things like that, do stuff like that. And even if you don't have kids, you can still go bowling and have a good time.
That's right.
You can do a whole range of things.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because the whole purpose of this whole conversation is to bring awareness to you that sex is part of marriage. And if you are not having it, you need to. And you need to find ways and means of doing it. So, because at the beginning I was saying, oh yeah, how many times should we be doing it? I mean, well, even with all good intentions, you try and do it once a week, twice a week, 3 days, it's not going to happen. So you do it when you can, but just don't leave it for too long. And it will strengthen the marriage. And like what Alyson said, it's true. We need to feel close and loved before we want to do it, because if not, it's like, go away, don't even look at me sideways. But for men, it's different. That's how our love hormone releases when we feel love for someone. For them, it releases when they release.
Yeah,
that's where we differ. And what about people who have already crossed that line? If I were to come to you, say 3 years ago, we haven't had sex for the longest time. I won't say how long, but we haven't. And it's hard. I can't even do it. I don't even know how. So what do you do then?
Well, I guess it depends on the individuals involved, and trying to find some common ground whereby, because the thing, we're all human beings, and we want that connection, and we don't want to be rejected. So
yeah, it feels awkward though. You know what I mean? It's like
it is. It is. So as women, we're used to the men asking us out, right? So they're the ones who have to put themselves out there to experience potential rejection. Whereas, and mind you, I know there are some women who do, ask men out, and all power to you. I really respect you for that. But generally, that hasn't been the practice. And so it's always the man who has to put himself out to be vulnerable. And I believe that that usually with sex as well, it's usually the man who asks for sex and quite often is told no. So that makes it really hard for him to want to ask again and be rejected yet again. So as the woman, particularly if it's been a long time, it really is up to us to make the effort to put out the initial kind of feelers, so to speak. And again, you might just start slowly, maybe saying, we haven't been out for ages, or we haven't been away for ages. Let's do that. So you've got to kind of break the pattern. And in NLP, it's called a pattern interrupt. So you've got to interrupt the pattern and start a new pattern. And that might just be, even if you can't get away, like in COVID times, you might not want to be able to get away outside your city. I mean, if you're in Melbourne and lockdown, you can't get out of your home. That's a problem.
That's right.
Another thing is you can just go to a hotel in your own city and you make that a getaway. Be a little bit creative and come up with a way to interrupt your pattern to start a new pattern.
Yeah.
I mean, say you do go away, even if you can go to a holiday house or borrow somebody's sort of holiday house if money is an issue. And then, when you come back, you can say, really appreciate that time together. Let's do more of this. And when you are away, maybe you can have some special, like, wine and cheese or whatever your bag is. Maybe you go for a walk and have cake and coffee and get close together and then come back, and maybe that will kind of lead to sex. Or maybe even say, look, I know it's been a long time, but I really just would love us to sort of try and, have some bedroom time, whatever your lingo is, and try and get that way to break that pattern where it's been a long time. Create that kind of, take away the awkwardness by creating the intimacy, break the pattern, start a new pattern. Now that's quite glib, and I know it might not kind of fit every situation, but that's the kind of
basic
that's
structure.
the kind of process. Sort of process.
Yeah. So if I know we didn't really discuss this, but you did bring something up, so I'm going to bring it up right here. Is that, have you guys actually discussed about or like other fun stuff you can do, like fantasies and all that? You never know, because if there's no shame in it, though, that's the thing. It's about time. Look at Netflix; he's going mad for it. Everything, what sexify and whatever. It's so much sex. So we need to get over ourselves and whatever social norm whom we don't even know has put there. That just take back the power. If you like doing something, why not try it? You don't know until you try. I know for a fact I don't like to be spanked. I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. I don't even know why. What do I get from it? Because I had a boyfriend who did it once. I'm like, what are you doing? It's weird.
I don't think I haven't even sort of thought about that, because I know that one of the things that my mother, which I've got from my mother, is that she used to be really affronted. You know how you see on telly where a man will smack a woman's bottom as he goes past, because that's the kind of familiarity thing.
Yeah.
Well, my mother used to say that she really objected to that, because that was like objectifying a woman. Like, how dare you smack my bottom, right? Who do you think you are? So I have now got that as well. So funnily enough, my partner, he started doing that at the start of our relationship. And I said, look, please don't do that. I just don't like it at all. So that's the other thing. You've got to be upfront about what you do and don't like, right? So, and I'm so glad, because otherwise that would have just made me all uptight and really resentful and what have you. So you need to talk about what you do like and what you don't like, especially what you don't like.
That's right.
No, I take that back. Especially what you do like probably is more important in terms of the pleasure.
Yes, that's right. And we need to explore that more and more. And who says that older married couples don't do it? We do. We have life. We have feelings. I mean, we got the childbearing out of the way. Why can't we just have fun on this side now? So
absolutely. But I might also add, I mean, I'll get to the toys part in a minute.
Oh yes.
But one of the things I also say to the young women I come across, and the poor loves, they often don't know before I go bam. I do ask their permission. But I always say to young women, you have to make time for sex if you want your marriage to thrive. because, you know, that's where we started. You need to have that connection for both the man to feel close to you and you to feel close to your man. And, you know, the funny thing is that generally afterwards you kind of, you line each other's arms or whatever. In the old days, they used to have a cigarette, right? But so that, again, gets the closeness and keeps the closeness going. But for me, earlier, well, in my marriage, partly why I stopped having sex is because it used to hurt. I mean, I was pissed off with him, so I wasn't turned on. So
Yeah,
naturally, I wasn't, you know, sort of all kind of ready to go.
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So I sort of say to women, doesn't matter how old you are, get lubrication, use lubrication. Lube is your friend.
That's
Hope
right.
my children don't watch this ever.
Yeah, it's
But
got, I did warn her it's going on YouTube, and that
no,
YouTube is Foreverland, is evergreen content. But no, it's right. We are so, do you know, that's got nothing to do with how sexual you are or how sexy you are as a woman. It's
yeah,
got nothing to do with it.
exactly. And in the same way as orgasms, right? I mean, do I mean it's easy for a man to know if he's had an orgasm because it's a physical release, right? But for women, you know, what is an orgasm? I actually didn't know. I had to go and find out, am I actually orgasming or am I not? Am I
Really?
all right or am I not? Am I broken? Why do we have all this unnecessary garbage that we feel we've got to live up to? And
Yeah,
and as I said, I have read and I have found out that an orgasm is anything. It doesn't have to necessarily, it varies from woman to woman,
that's
and it
right.
can vary within a woman. You can have different kinds of orgasms. So sometimes there is a release of some fluids and sometimes there's not. As long as you're enjoying it, that's all that matters. You know, do
That's
you have
right.
an orgasm? Do you not have an orgasm? Who cares as long as it feels good? And if it
Yeah,
feels good, do
that's
it.
the key. That is the key. It needs to feel good. And you'll do what you need to do, what it takes to get you to the point where it feels good for you. So
Yeah.
the key is both parties feel good. That is the important part. And then now Alyson is going to share some little tips before we go about toys.
I don't know about that. Uh, little tips on what?
Toys. What she said, oh,
Uh,
let's go and talk about toys. Let's talk about toys.
well, I don't know too much about toys, although I have been looking into stuff because I'm just curious. So years ago, I worked with a woman. She was very upfront about her sexuality, or well, not her sexual, about her sexual needs. And so she used to say that she used to use toys and, you know, lubrication and all this sort of stuff. She was much younger than me as well. And I thought, oh, maybe that's something we should do. So this is when I was married. So my husband and I went shopping and we bought a toy. It wasn't a very good toy, I must admit. But go and find out about the various toys. Anyway, so it wasn't a huge success, so I didn't really use that. But then later on, uh, in my new relationship, I thought I'm going to get a toy. Mind you, my partner didn't come with me. I just went by myself, and I actually found out more about toys. There's also stuff on YouTube you can find. You can now
Oh,
with YouTube, there's so much on YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of information about sex positions and, you know, toys and all sorts of things that you can use. There are a couple of websites where you can buy toys, and they even have videos about how the toy works.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So there is
Yeah,
no, I want to dispel the whole shame around buying toys and finding out preferences. You you are doing whatever. It's almost like like date nights. You go on date nights so that you can have a better relationship. If you look into an alternative way to have a better sex life, that is also trying to better your relationship. So there is no shame around it. And if we all come out and talk about it and there is no shame about it, then there is none. This is the reason why we have conversations like that. So
exactly.
before we go, Alyson, do you have anything to add to the married couples out there?
I would just sort of say that when I do the relationship coaching I do, there are virtually two kinds of um, reactions to, or I don't have reactions. There are two kinds of personality types, if you like, in a relationship. One is the avoidant who wants to avoid conflict and so will, you know, retreat. The other one is the pursuant who wants to sort of, you know, find out what's wrong, what's wrong. Some people might think them as being naggers. Now, if you are a pursuant, or if you're lucky that you are in a relationship with a pursuant, and you might have two pursuants, that's good because they're the people who keep the relationship alive. They want to know what's wrong. They want to find out. If you have two avoidants and they just kind of, you know, retreat, then there's no communication. So you cannot get the relationship back where it was. So I would say, if you can try and work out whether you're an avoidant or a pursuant, and you tend to know pretty much, in conflict, what do you do? Do you withdraw? Do you retreat? Or do you sort of keep following to see, tell me what's wrong, why you like this, blah, blah, blah. Now, sometimes if you've got one of each, it can be a bit confronting for the person who's the avoidant, and it can be frustrating for the one who's the pursuant. But if it's worth it, it's worth sitting down and talking about. And working out, do you really want the relationship to work? That's the first thing. Do we want this relationship to work? And if we do, what are we willing to do? The other thing I like to say about relationships is you must have common values. If one of you values loyalty and the other one doesn't, and the other one, so one of you is into a monogamous kind of relationship and the other one sort of wants to have, many partners, an open relationship, that's not going to work. So your values are so important. And that'll also come down to your values about sex, because if the relationship is important to you, and sex is an important part of a relationship, as we know it is, particularly for men and for some women too, so not just a man thing, then it's really important that you factor that into your relationship and how you're going to make that work. And finding a way, as Karen said, make sure you've got fun in there. Bring back fun. If your pattern is where you both withdrawn, or now the relationship is at a stage where it's kind of a bit stale, break the pattern however you can to bring back some fun and make it something silly. Let's go to the zoo, or let's go and play bowls, whatever it is. If you really care enough, fight for your relationship.
That's right.
That would be my takeaway.
That's right.
And if you don't know, where the relationship's going wrong, find out. As we both said, if we'd known earlier in our relationships what we know now, things would have been easier for Karen, and I might still be married. Who knows? Maybe not.
Correct. But the thing is this, right? The bottom line is this. Physical contact is vital in a marriage. It's vital. So make no mistake, though, you're not going to say, even the old people, do you know actually that the statistics have shown recently that the STD in old folks' home have gone up because they're mad for it. They're going mad for it. Wow. So there you go. You're old doesn't mean you don't do it. You continue to, especially in a marriage. When you meet someone, not only do you have, like a mental connection, you have a physical connection and attraction as well.
Yeah.
You must keep that. If you, I don't know, I don't even begin to explain how important it is. So this is this. So thank you for watching. And next week we will have, let me check my schedule. Next week we will have Karine, who will be here to talk about depression. And yes, you do have options when you're depressed. And your only choice is not to stay in bed. You have more choices than that. And with that said, thank you, Alyson, for being with us today and being so candid and open. And now it's out in the big internet. You cannot take it back. Thank you for watching us, and I'll be back next week. Bye.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everybody. Bye.